Hello everyone, and welcome back to Super English Talks. If this is your first time watching my channel, welcome. And if you are a returning friend, thank you so much for coming back. Today we are going to talk about something really important. We are going to talk about English listening practice and how to learn English in the best way possible. This is going to be a complete guide, and I promise to explain everything slowly and clearly so that everyone can understand. So get comfortable, maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let us begin this learning journey together. Before we start, I want you to know something important. Learning English is not a race. It is a journey. Some people learn faster, and some people learn slower. Both ways are completely okay. What matters most is that you keep trying, you keep practicing, and you never give up. I have been teaching English for many years, and I have seen so many students succeed. Do you know what all successful students have in common? They practice every single day, even if it is just for 10 or 15 minutes. They are patient with themselves, and they enjoy the learning process. So today, I want to help you become one of those successful learners. I want to give you all the tools and knowledge you need to improve your English listening skills and overall English ability. Let me start by telling you why listening is so important when you are learning English. Many students focus only on grammar rules and vocabulary lists. These things are important, yes, but listening is actually one of the most important skills you can develop. Think about it this way. When you were a baby, how did you learn your first language? You listened. You listened to your parents, your family, and everyone around you. You listened for months and months before you even said your first word. Listening came first, and then speaking came naturally after that. The same thing happens when you learn English as a second language. When you listen a lot, your brain starts to understand the patterns of English. You learn how words sound together. You learn the rhythm and the music of the language. You learn how native speakers actually talk in real life, not just how textbooks say they should talk. Another reason why listening is so important is because it helps all your other English skills. When you listen to English regularly, your speaking improves because you hear the correct pronunciation. Your vocabulary grows because you learn new words in context, which means you understand not just what the word means, but also how and when to use it. Your grammar gets better too, because you hear correct grammar structures over and over again until they become natural for you. Even your reading and writing improve because you develop a better sense of how English sentences should flow. So you see, listening is not just one skill. It is the foundation that supports all your other English skills. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Sarah, I try to listen to English, but I do not understand anything. Everything sounds too fast. I feel lost and frustrated. If this is how you feel, please know that you are not alone. Almost every English learner feels this way at the beginning, and even at intermediate levels. This feeling is completely normal, and it does not mean you are bad at English. It just means you need the right practice and the right techniques. And that is exactly what I am going to teach you today. I am going to show you how to practice listening in a way that actually works, in a way that will help you understand more and more every single day. Let me explain something about how our brains learn to understand a new language. When you first start listening to English, your brain is working very hard. It is trying to recognize individual words, trying to understand grammar, trying to translate to your native language, and trying to understand the meaning all at the same time. This is a lot of work for your brain, and this is why you feel tired after listening to English for a while. This is also why everything seems to go so fast. Your brain simply cannot process all the information quickly enough. But here is the good news. The more you practice listening, the more automatic these processes become. Your brain gets faster and faster at recognizing words and understanding meaning. Eventually, you will not need to translate in your head anymore. You will understand English directly, and it will feel natural and easy. But to get to that point, you need to practice regularly and you need to practice in the right way. So what is the right way to practice listening? This is what I want to teach you now, and I want to give you a complete system that you can follow. First, let me talk about one of the biggest mistakes that English learners make with listening practice. Many students only listen to things that are too difficult for them. They listen to fast native speakers, complex news broadcasts, or movies without subtitles, and they understand maybe 10 or 20%. Then they feel frustrated and discouraged. This is not good practice. This is not helping your brain learn. In fact, this can actually make you want to give up. The key to effective listening practice is to listen to things that are just a little bit challenging for you, not too easy and not too difficult. Think of it like lifting weights at the gym. If you try to lift something too heavy, you might hurt yourself and you will not get stronger. If you lift something too light, you will not build any muscle. You need to lift something that is challenging but possible. The same idea applies to listening practice. So how do you know what level is right for you? Here is a simple test. When you listen to something in English, you should understand about 70 to 80% of what you hear. If you understand less than 70%, it is probably too difficult for now. If you understand more than 80%, it might be too easy and you should try something a little more challenging. When you listen to material at the right level, your brain can use the parts it understands to figure out the parts it does not understand yet. This is how learning happens. Your brain makes connections and builds new understanding based on what it already knows. This is much more effective than listening to something where you understand almost nothing. Now let me give you my complete system for listening practice. I call this the Super English Talks listening method, and it has 5 important steps. These 5 steps work together to help you improve your listening skills quickly and effectively. I am going to explain each step in detail, and I want you to really understand why each step is important. Then you can start using this method right away today, and you will begin to see improvements very soon. Step 1 is to choose the right material. This is so important. You need to find listening material that is interesting to you and at the right level for you. If you are bored by what you are listening to, you will not want to practice. Your brain learns best when you are interested and engaged. So think about what you enjoy. Do you like stories? Do you like learning about science or history? Do you like cooking or sports or travel? Whatever interests you, try to find English listening material about that topic. These days, there are so many resources available. You can find podcasts, YouTube videos, audiobooks, and so much more. Many of these resources are free. For podcasts, you can find shows made especially for English learners at different levels. For YouTube, you can find channels like mine that speak clearly and use simple English. For audiobooks, you can find graded readers, which are books written specifically for learners at different levels. When you are choosing material, also think about the length. If you are just starting with listening practice, do not choose something that is 1 hour long. This will feel overwhelming. Start with something short, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. As you get more comfortable with listening practice, you can gradually increase the length. Also, Think about whether you want something with a transcript or subtitles. For beginners and intermediate learners, I strongly recommend using material that has a transcript or accurate subtitles available. This will help you in the later steps of my method. Let me also give you a tip about accents. English is spoken in many countries around the world, and people have different accents. American English sounds different from British English, which sounds different from Australian English, and so on. For now, I recommend focusing on one accent first. Do not try to understand all accents at the same time. Choose the accent that is most useful for you. If you plan to work in America, focus on American English. If you want to study in the UK, focus on British English. Once you become comfortable with one accent, you can start exploring others. Step 2 is to listen without any help first. This is called extensive listening, and it is very important. After you choose your material, I want you to listen to it once from beginning to end without stopping, without using subtitles, and without looking at a transcript. Just listen and try to understand as much as you can. Do not worry if you miss some words or sentences. Do not stress if you feel lost sometimes. Just relax and listen. Try to understand the main idea, the general topic, and the overall meaning. Do not worry about every single word. This step is teaching your brain to understand English in a natural way, the way native speakers understand it. Native speakers do not focus on every single word either. They understand the general meaning and the context. During this first listening, I want you to notice something. Notice which parts you understood well and which parts were difficult. Notice if there were any words or phrases that you heard several times. Notice the speaker's tone and emotion. Are they happy, sad, excited, or serious? Even if you do not understand all the words, you can often understand the feeling and the general message. This is an important skill. Also, do not translate in your head during this first listening. I know this is hard, especially at the beginning, but try your best to just listen and understand directly in English. Translating slows down your understanding and makes listening much more difficult. If you practice listening without translating, your brain will gradually learn to think in English, and this will make everything much easier. After you finish this first listening, take a moment to think about what you understood. You can even write down a few notes if you want. What was the main topic? What were some of the key points? How much do you think you understood? Maybe it was 50%, maybe it was 70%. Do not judge yourself. Just notice. This first listening is showing you your current level, and it is preparing your brain for deeper learning in the next steps. Some students skip this step because they want to use subtitles right away, but please do not skip it. This step is training your ears and your brain to understand spoken English, and this is one of the most important skills you can develop. Step 3 is to listen again with support. Now, for your second listening, you can use subtitles or a transcript. This time you are going to listen and read at the same time. This is very powerful because now you can connect the sounds you hear with the written words. You can see which words you heard correctly and which words you missed. You can understand parts that confused you the first time. This step helps you in many ways. It improves your listening comprehension, it teaches you new vocabulary, it shows you correct pronunciation, and it even helps your reading skills at the same time. When you listen and read together, your brain creates strong connections between the written form and the spoken form of words. This makes it easier to recognize these words the next time you hear them. As you listen and read, I want you to do a few things. First, if you hear a word you do not know, Do not stop immediately to look it up. Just keep listening and reading. Try to understand the word from the context. What is the sentence about? What is the general meaning? Often, you can guess the meaning of new words from the context, and this is an important skill to develop. After you finish this second listening, then you can go back and look up any words you did not understand. But do not stop in the middle. Let the listening flow naturally. Second, pay attention to how words are pronounced. You might notice that the way words sound in real speech is different from how you thought they should sound. This is because native speakers use features like linking, where they connect words together, and reduction, where they make some sounds shorter or weaker. By listening and reading at the same time, you can learn these natural speech patterns. Third, notice any grammar structures that appear in the material. When you see and hear grammar in context, it becomes much easier to understand and remember than when you just study grammar rules from a textbook. You see how the grammar is actually used in real communication, and this helps you learn to use it correctly yourself. Fourth, pay attention to phrases and expressions, not just individual words. Native speakers use many common phrases and expressions, and learning these will make your English sound much more natural. When you notice a phrase that seems useful or interesting, you can write it down in a notebook for later review. Building a collection of useful phrases is one of the best ways to improve your English. Step 4 is intensive listening. This is where you really deepen your understanding. After you have listened twice, once without help and once with subtitles or a transcript, now you are going to work with small sections of the material in detail. Choose a section that is maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute long. It could be a section that you found difficult, or it could be a section that has useful vocabulary or expressions. Now you're going to listen to just this short section several times, maybe 5 or 6 times or even more. With each listening, you will understand more and more details. You will hear things you did not notice before. You will understand the exact meaning of each sentence. You will learn the precise pronunciation of each word. During this intensive listening, you can pause and replay as many times as you need. You can look up words and expressions in a dictionary. You can analyze the grammar structures. You can even write down the section word by word if that helps you. This is not about speed. This is about depth of understanding. This step teaches your brain to pay attention to details and to recognize the individual elements of English speech. Many students skip this step because it feels slow and difficult, but this is actually one of the most valuable steps. This is where real learning happens. This is where your brain makes new neural connections and builds lasting knowledge. Let me give you some specific techniques you can use during intensive listening. First, you can try shadowing. This means you listen to a sentence and then immediately repeat it, trying to copy the exact pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. Shadowing is very powerful because it connects listening with speaking, and it trains your mouth and your brain to produce English sounds correctly. At first, shadowing is difficult, but with practice, it becomes easier and very beneficial. Second, you can try dictation. This means you listen to a sentence and try to write down exactly what you hear. Then you check your answer against the transcript. Dictation shows you exactly which sounds and words you can recognize and which ones you cannot yet recognize. It reveals your weak points so you know what to work on. Third, you can break down difficult sentences. Look at the grammar structure. Identify the subject, the verb, and the object. Look at how the ideas are connected. This analytical approach helps you understand not just what is being said, but how English sentences are constructed. Step 5 is review and repetition. This final step is absolutely essential, but many students forget about it. Learning does not happen just because you listen to something once or twice. Real learning happens through repetition over time. Your brain needs to encounter the same material multiple times before it moves from short-term memory to long-term memory. So after you have worked through steps 1 to 4 with a piece of listening material, you need to come back to it again later. Maybe you review it the next day, then again after 3 days, then again after a week. Each time you review, the material becomes easier and easier, and the knowledge becomes more and more solid in your brain. For review, you do not need to do all the intensive work again. You can just do an extensive listening, similar to step 2, where you listen without stopping and without help. You will probably be amazed at how much more you understand compared to the first time. This is because your brain has processed and learned from all the work you did in the previous steps. This feeling of improvement is very motivating, and it will encourage you to keep practicing. Another way to review is to use the same material for speaking practice. You can practice shadowing it, or you can try to summarize what you heard in your own words. This kind of active review is even more powerful than passive review because you are using the language, not just receiving it. Now that I have explained my 5-step method, let me talk about how to make listening practice a regular habit in your life. Consistency is the most important factor in language learning success. It is much better to practice for 15 minutes every single day than to practice for 3 hours once a week. Regular, frequent practice keeps your brain engaged with English and helps you make steady progress. So how can you make listening practice a daily habit? Let me give you some practical tips that have worked for many of my students. First, connect your English practice to something you already do every day. This is called habit stacking, and it is very effective. For example, if you drink coffee every morning, you could listen to English while you drink your coffee. If you exercise or go for a walk every day, you could listen to an English podcast during that time. If you commute to work or school, you could use that time for listening practice. By connecting English to an existing habit, it becomes much easier to remember and much easier to maintain. Second, start very small. If you have never practiced listening regularly before, do not try to practice for 1 hour every day. This is too much, and you will probably give up after a few days. Instead, start with just 5 or 10 minutes per day. This feels easy and achievable. After this becomes a comfortable habit, you can gradually increase the time. Remember, 5 minutes every day is much better than 0 minutes every day. Third, track your progress. Get a calendar or a notebook, and every day that you practice listening, mark it down. This simple action creates a chain of successful days, and you will feel motivated to keep the chain going. You do not want to break your streak. This psychological trick is very powerful for building habits. Fourth, find an accountability partner. This could be a friend who is also learning English, or it could be someone online in an English learning community. Tell this person about your listening practice goal, and check in with each other regularly. When you know someone else is counting on you, you are much more likely to follow through with your commitment. Fifth, make it enjoyable. I said this before, but it is so important that I want to say it again. If you do not enjoy your listening practice, you will not continue doing it. So find material that entertains you, that interests you, that makes you laugh, or that teaches you something you want to know. Learning English should not feel like punishment. It should feel like a rewarding activity that adds value to your life. There are millions of hours of English content available on the internet covering every possible topic and interest. You can definitely find something that you enjoy. Let me also talk about some common problems that students face with listening practice and how to solve them. One common problem is that students feel discouraged when they do not understand everything. They think, I have been studying English for years. Why can I still not understand native speakers? If this is how you feel, please be patient with yourself. Understanding native speakers is actually one of the most advanced English skills. Native speakers talk quickly, they use slang and idioms, they have strong accents, and they do not always speak in grammatically perfect sentences. This is completely different from the clear, slow English that you might have learned from textbooks or language apps. So it is normal that understanding native speakers takes time and practice. The solution is to gradually increase the difficulty of your listening material. Start with content made for learners, then move to content for native speakers but about simple topics, and eventually you can handle fast, complex native speech. Another common problem is that students listen but do not really pay attention. They play English in the background while they do other things, like cooking or working or scrolling on their phone. This is called passive listening, and unfortunately, it does not help very much. Your brain needs to actively focus on the English in order to learn from it. If the English is just background noise, your brain will tune it out and not process it deeply. The solution is to do active listening, where you give your full attention to the English for at least a short period of time. Even 10 minutes of focused active listening is much more valuable than 1 hour of passive background listening. Of course, some passive listening is better than no listening at all, but if you really want to improve, you need to include focused practice sessions in your routine. A third common problem is that students do not know if they are understanding correctly. When you are listening without subtitles or a transcript, how do you know if your understanding is accurate? You might think you understand, but maybe you are misunderstanding some parts. This is a valid concern, and this is exactly why I recommend using material with transcripts or subtitles, at least for part of your practice. After you do your extensive listening without help, you can check your understanding by listening again with subtitles. This gives you immediate feedback about your accuracy. Over time, as you do this more and more, your understanding will become more and more accurate, and you will need to check less often. A fourth problem is pronunciation and accent differences. Students sometimes feel confused because different English speakers sound so different from each other. A person from Texas sounds different from a person from New York, who sounds different from a person from London, who sounds different from a person from Sydney. How can you understand everyone? The truth is, even native speakers sometimes have difficulty understanding different accents. This is normal. My advice is to focus mainly on one accent at first, as I mentioned earlier, but also expose yourself to different accents occasionally so that your ear becomes flexible. Over time, you will develop the ability to adapt to different accents more quickly. You will learn to focus on the core words and meaning rather than getting distracted by accent features. A fifth problem is dealing with unknown words. When you are listening and you hear a word you do not know, it can throw off your comprehension for several seconds because you are stuck thinking about that one word. This is very common. The solution is to train yourself to keep listening even when you miss a word. Do not let one unknown word stop your understanding of the whole message. Try to guess the meaning from context and keep moving forward. You can always check the word later when you review. This skill of dealing with gaps in understanding is very important, not just for English learning but also for real-life communication. Even in your native language, you sometimes miss words or do not hear clearly, but you still understand the overall message. You need to develop this same skill in English. Now let me share some of my favorite resources for English listening practice. Remember, you should choose resources that match your level and your interests. For beginners, I recommend starting with podcasts and YouTube channels specifically made for English learners. These usually speak slowly and clearly, use simple vocabulary, and often include transcripts. Some good examples are Voice of America Learning English, the British Council's podcasts, and many YouTube channels dedicated to teaching English. You can also look for graded readers in audiobook format. These are books written at specific levels, so you can choose a level that is comfortable for you. For lower intermediate learners, you can continue with learner-focused content, but you can also start exploring some content made for native speakers on topics you know well. For example, if you are interested in cooking, you could watch simple cooking videos in English. If you love football, you could listen to basic football commentary. When you already know a lot about the topic, it is easier to understand the English. For upper intermediate and advanced learners, the world of English content is wide open for you. You can listen to regular podcasts on topics that interest you. There are podcasts about history, science, business, comedy, storytelling, and every other subject you can imagine. You can watch TED Talks, which are usually very clear and well-organized presentations about interesting ideas. You can watch documentaries, which are educational and usually have clear narration. You can start watching TV shows and movies, although I recommend using subtitles at first, maybe even English subtitles rather than subtitles in your native language. English subtitles help you connect the sounds with the words, while subtitles in your native language can become a crutch that prevents you from actually processing the English. You can also listen to audiobooks, which are wonderful for improving listening skills. Audiobooks are usually read clearly and with good expression, and if you get a book that is also available in written form, you can read along as you listen, which is excellent practice. Another great resource is the radio. Many radio stations now stream online, so you can listen to stations from English-speaking countries. News radio, talk radio, and interview programs are all good options. At first, radio might be challenging because you do not have any visual support, but this is exactly why it is such good practice. It forces your ears to work hard and strengthens your ability to understand without any other clues. Let me also mention that it is valuable to listen to different types of English content, not just one type. Do not only listen to podcasts, and do not only watch videos. Different formats give you different skills. Podcasts are great for pure audio comprehension without any visual support. Videos let you see facial expressions, gestures, and context, which helps understanding. Audiobooks train your sustained attention because you listen to one thing for a long time. Conversations and interviews expose you to natural back-and-forth dialogue with interruptions and casual speech. News programs teach you formal language and a wide range of vocabulary. By varying your listening practice, you develop well-rounded skills that prepare you for any situation. Now I want to talk about something very important, and that is the relationship between listening and speaking. Many students do not realize how connected these two skills are. If you want to improve your speaking, you absolutely must practice listening. Why? Because speaking is basically reproducing what you have heard and internalized. If you have never heard a word pronounced correctly, how will you pronounce it correctly when you speak? If you have never heard natural sentence rhythm and intonation, how will you produce it yourself? Native speakers sound natural because they have been listening to their language their entire lives. They have internalized thousands of hours of input, and this input shapes their output. You need to do the same thing in English. You need massive amounts of listening input in order to develop natural, fluent speaking output. There is a specific technique I want to teach you that connects listening and speaking in a very powerful way. This technique is called echo reading or shadowing, and I mentioned it briefly before, but now I want to explain it more fully. Here is how it works. You play a short section of audio, maybe just 1 or 2 sentences. You listen carefully to the pronunciation, the intonation, the rhythm, and the emotion. Then you immediately repeat exactly what you heard, trying to copy it as precisely as possible. You are like an echo or a shadow of the speaker. At first, this is difficult, but with practice, you get better and better. Shadowing helps you in many ways. It improves your pronunciation because you are copying native speakers. It improves your speaking fluency because you are practicing smooth, natural speech. It improves your listening because you have to listen very carefully to be able to copy. And it even helps your grammar and vocabulary because you are physically producing correct English structures. For shadowing practice, I recommend using material where the speaker has very clear pronunciation. Do not choose content that is too fast or too unclear. Start with sentences that are not too long or complex. As you get more comfortable with the technique, you can increase the difficulty. Some people like to shadow quietly under their breath, and some people like to shadow out loud in a normal voice. Both ways work, so do whatever feels comfortable for you. You can shadow while looking at the transcript, or you can shadow without looking, which is more challenging. I recommend starting with the transcript and then gradually trying without it. If you practice shadowing for even just 5 or 10 minutes every day, you will see dramatic improvements in both your listening comprehension and your speaking ability. Let me also discuss the importance of learning vocabulary through listening rather than just through memorization. Many students make lists of words with translations and try to memorize them. This can help a little bit, but it is not the most effective way to build vocabulary. Why? Because words memorized in isolation are hard to remember and hard to use correctly. You might know the dictionary definition of a word, but do you know how to use it in a sentence? Do you know which words commonly appear together with it? Do you know if it is formal or informal? Do you know the correct pronunciation? When you learn vocabulary through listening, you learn all of these things naturally. You hear the word used in context, so you understand its meaning and its usage. You hear it combined with other words, so you learn natural collocations. You hear the pronunciation, stress, and intonation. You learn whether it is used in formal or casual situations. All of this happens automatically when you learn words through listening, but none of it happens when you just memorize word lists. So here is what I recommend. When you're doing your listening practice and you hear a new word that seems useful, write it down with the full sentence you heard it in, not just the word by itself. Later, when you review, you will remember the context and the usage, which makes the word much more memorable. You can also write down the meaning and maybe an example sentence of your own. But the key is that you first encountered this word through listening, in a real context, and this is what makes it stick in your memory. Over time, as you do more and more listening practice, your vocabulary will grow naturally and organically. You will learn thousands of words without even trying, just by exposing yourself to English regularly. This is how native speakers learn most of their vocabulary, and this is how you can learn too. Another aspect of listening practice that I want to discuss is the importance of listening to different voices and speakers. When you are starting out, it is fine to listen mainly to 1 or 2 speakers, like your favorite English teacher or podcast host. But as you progress, you should intentionally expose yourself to many different voices. Listen to men, women, older people, younger people, people with different accents, people who speak quickly, people who speak slowly. Why is this important? Because in real life, you will need to understand all kinds of people, not just one speaker. If you only practice listening to one voice, your brain gets very good at understanding that specific voice, but it struggles with other voices. By listening to variety, you train your brain to be flexible and adaptable. You learn to focus on the core message rather than getting distracted by surface features like accent or speaking speed. This is also why I encourage my students to watch interviews and conversations between multiple people, not just monologues by one person. When you listen to conversations, you get practice with several different voices at once. You also learn about turn-taking, interruptions, and how people respond to each other, which are all important aspects of real communication. Conversations are messier and less organized than monologues, but they are closer to what you will experience in real life. So yes, they are more challenging, but they are also more useful for preparing you for actual English use. Now let me address something that many students wonder about. Should you use subtitles in your native language, subtitles in English, or no subtitles at all? This is a great question, and the answer depends on your level and your goals. For absolute beginners, using subtitles in your native language can be helpful because it allows you to follow the story and stay motivated. However, you should not rely on native language subtitles for too long, because you will end up reading instead of listening, and your listening skills will not improve very much. As soon as possible, switch to English subtitles. English subtitles are very helpful because they let you connect the sounds with the written words, as I explained earlier. You are still processing English, not translating, but you have support to help your understanding. This is ideal for most learners at elementary, intermediate, and even advanced levels. Once you reach a high advanced level, you should start challenging yourself to watch without subtitles, at least sometimes. This is the most authentic listening experience, and it is what you will need to do in real-life situations like conversations, meetings, and phone calls. Without subtitles, your ears and brain must work hard to process the sounds, and this strengthens your listening ability more than anything else. However, I do not think you need to eliminate subtitles completely. Even native speakers use subtitles sometimes, especially if the audio quality is poor or the accent is unfamiliar. So use subtitles as a tool when they help you, but also give yourself regular practice without them to build your raw listening skills. Let me share a few more practical tips that can help your listening practice be more effective. First, find a quiet space for your focused listening practice. Background noise makes listening much more difficult, and you do not want to make the task harder than it needs to be. Save the noisy environments for after you have already built solid skills in quiet environments. Second, use good quality headphones or speakers. Poor audio quality can make even simple English difficult to understand. You do not need expensive equipment, but you do need something that produces clear sound. Third, take care of your energy levels. Listening in a foreign language is mentally tiring, so do not try to practice when you are exhausted. Do your listening practice when your mind is fresh and alert, maybe in the morning or after a rest. Fourth, eliminate distractions. Turn off notifications on your phone. Close other tabs on your computer. Tell the people around you that you need some quiet time. Give your full attention to the listening practice for at least a short period. Fifth, set specific goals for each listening session. Do not just vaguely listen. Instead, have a purpose. Maybe today's goal is to understand the main idea. Tomorrow's goal might be to catch all the details. Another day, your goal might be to focus on pronunciation and practice shadowing. Having a specific focus makes your practice more intentional and more effective. Sixth, be consistent with your practice time. If possible, practice at the same time every day. This helps establish a routine and makes the habit stronger. Your brain will start to expect English practice at that time, and it will be ready to learn. Seventh, celebrate your progress. Notice when you understand something you did not understand before. Notice when something that was difficult becomes easier. Acknowledge your improvements, even small ones. This positive reinforcement keeps you motivated and happy about learning. Let me talk about how long it takes to improve your listening skills. This is a common question, and unfortunately, there is no single answer because everyone is different. It depends on your starting level, how much time you practice, the quality of your practice, your age, your native language, and many other factors. However, I can give you some general ideas. If you practice listening actively for 30 minutes every day using effective methods like the one I taught you today, you will probably notice some improvement within 2 to 4 weeks. You might notice that you are catching more words, understanding faster, or feeling less tired after listening. These are signs that your brain is adapting and getting stronger. After 3 months of consistent practice, you should see significant improvement. Material that was difficult at the beginning will feel much easier. After 6 months to a year, if you have practiced regularly, you might find that you can understand most everyday conversation and media content without too much difficulty. However, I want to be honest with you. Reaching a truly advanced level of listening comprehension, where you can understand any English speaker in any situation including fast speech, strong accents, slang, idioms, and cultural references, takes years of practice. This is not meant to discourage you. This is meant to give you realistic expectations so that you do not give up if progress seems slow. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Every day of practice adds to your abilities, and over time, those daily additions build into amazing results. The key is patience, consistency, and trust in the process. Keep practicing, keep exposing yourself to English, and your skills will grow. It is not a question of if, but rather when. I also want to remind you that progress is not always linear. Sometimes you will improve quickly for a few weeks, and then you will hit a plateau where you feel like you are not improving at all. This is completely normal. Plateaus happen in all kinds of learning, not just language learning. They happen because your brain is consolidating all the new information it has absorbed. During a plateau, learning is still happening, but it is happening under the surface where you cannot see it. Then suddenly, after a few weeks or months, you will have a breakthrough and jump to a new level. So if you hit a plateau, do not get discouraged and do not give up. Just keep practicing consistently, and the breakthrough will come. Now I want to discuss some specific types of listening that you should practice. First, there is conversational listening. This means listening to 2 or more people having a natural conversation. This is different from listening to a presentation or lecture because conversations are more dynamic and unpredictable. People interrupt each other, they change topics suddenly, they use informal language and contractions. Practicing with conversations prepares you for real social interactions in English. You can find conversation practice through podcasts where hosts chat with guests, reality TV shows, interview videos, or dialogue-focused language learning materials. When you practice with conversations, pay attention to how people take turns speaking, how they show agreement or disagreement, and what expressions they use to keep the conversation flowing. Second, there is academic or professional listening. This means listening to presentations, lectures, meetings, or formal discussions. This type of English is usually more structured and more formal than conversational English. The vocabulary might be more complex and specialized. If you need English for work or study, this type of listening is very important for you. You can practice with TED Talks, university lecture recordings that are available online, business podcasts, or professional training videos. When practicing academic listening, focus on following the main argument, understanding how ideas are organized, and learning the specific vocabulary of your field. Third, there is narrative listening. This means listening to stories, whether they are fictional stories, personal anecdotes, or historical narratives. Stories have a beginning, middle, and end. They have characters, settings, and events. Listening to stories is enjoyable and engaging, which makes it excellent practice. Stories also tend to use more descriptive language and a wider range of vocabulary than simple conversations. You can practice narrative listening with audiobooks, storytelling podcasts, audio dramas, or even videos where people share personal experiences. When listening to stories, try to visualize what is happening in your mind. This helps comprehension and makes the experience more immersive. Fourth, there is instructional listening. This means listening to instructions or explanations about how to do something. Examples include cooking videos, tutorial videos, how-to guides, or educational content. Instructional listening is valuable because the language is usually very practical and action-oriented. You learn vocabulary related to processes and procedures. You can practice this type of listening and then actually try to follow the instructions, which gives you immediate feedback about how well you understood. Did you successfully complete the recipe? Did you properly assemble the furniture? This connection between listening and real-world action makes the learning very concrete and memorable. Let me also talk about the importance of repeated listening. I mentioned this as part of my 5-step method, but I want to emphasize it even more. Many students listen to something once and then move on to new material. They think that more material equals more learning. But this is not always true. Sometimes, less material studied more deeply is better than more material studied superficially. When you listen to the same content multiple times, especially over several days or weeks, you learn it much more thoroughly. The first time you listen, you might understand only the main idea. The second time, you catch more details. The third time, you notice grammar structures and useful expressions. The fourth time, you can focus on pronunciation and intonation. The fifth time, you might try shadowing. Each listening reveals something new and deepens your understanding. This is why I recommend that you choose some favorite pieces of listening material and return to them again and again. Maybe you have a favorite podcast episode or a video that you really enjoyed. Listen to it multiple times over the course of weeks or months. Each time will be different, and each time you will learn something new. This repeated exposure is extremely powerful for moving language from short-term memory into long-term memory. It also builds confidence because you can clearly see your progress. Something that was difficult the first time becomes easy after several listenings, and this shows you that your efforts are working. Now let me give you some advice about staying motivated with your listening practice. Motivation is one of the biggest challenges in language learning. At the beginning, you feel excited and motivated. But after a few weeks or months, the excitement fades, and practice starts to feel like a chore. This is when many people give up. So how can you maintain motivation over the long term? First, Connect your English learning to your bigger life goals. Why are you learning English? Is it for a better job? For travel? For education? To connect with people? To access information? Keep your reasons clear in your mind. Write them down where you can see them every day. When you remember why you are doing this, it is easier to keep going even when you do not feel like it. Second, make the practice itself enjoyable. I have said this multiple times, but it really is the key to long-term success. If you hate what you are listening to, you will not continue. So always choose content that interests you or entertains you. Think of listening practice not as studying, but as entertainment time where you happen to be learning. Third, set small, achievable goals rather than huge, overwhelming goals. Do not say, "I will become fluent in English this year." That is too big and vague. Instead, say, "I will practice listening for 10 minutes every day this week." Or, "I will finish this podcast series by the end of the month." Small goals give you frequent successes, and these successes keep you motivated. Fourth, track your progress in visible ways. Keep a journal where you note what you practiced each day and what you learned. Or use an app that tracks your study streak. Or fill in a progress chart. Seeing your accumulated effort is very motivating. Fifth, reward yourself for consistency. After you practice every day for a week, give yourself a small reward. Maybe it is your favorite food, or an episode of your favorite show, or some relaxation time. These rewards create positive associations with your practice. Sixth, join a community of other English learners. This could be online or in person. When you are part of a community, you feel supported, you can share challenges and successes, and you have people who understand what you are going through. Community makes the journey less lonely and more enjoyable. Seventh, remember that progress is not always obvious day to day, but it becomes clear over time. Take recordings of yourself speaking English every few months, or write down what you can understand from a particular video and then test yourself again months later. When you look back, you will be amazed at how far you have come. This backward-looking perspective is very motivating because it proves that your efforts are paying off. Eighth, be kind to yourself. You will have days when you do not practice, or when you practice but feel like you did not understand anything. This is okay. This is normal. Do not beat yourself up. Just start again the next day. Self-compassion is important for maintaining long-term motivation. Learning a language is hard, and you deserve credit for trying, even when it is difficult. Let me share some thoughts about dealing with frustration, which is something every language learner experiences. There will be times when you feel frustrated because you cannot understand something, or because progress seems too slow, or because you keep making the same mistakes. These feelings are valid, and it is okay to feel them. But do not let frustration stop you from practicing. Here is what I want you to remember when you feel frustrated. First, difficulty is a sign of learning. If something is easy, it means your brain already knows it. If something is difficult, it means your brain is working to learn something new. So difficulty is actually good. It means you are at the edge of your ability, which is exactly where learning happens. Second, mistakes are necessary for learning. You cannot learn without making mistakes. Mistakes show you what you need to work on. They provide valuable feedback. So do not fear mistakes or feel embarrassed by them. Embrace them as part of the learning process. Third, every expert was once a beginner. The English speakers you admire, whether they are native speakers or successful learners, all went through the same struggles you are going through now. They all felt confused and frustrated at times. But they kept going, and eventually they succeeded. You can succeed too. Fourth, your brain is incredibly powerful and adaptable. It can learn anything given enough time and practice. Trust your brain. It might not learn as quickly as you want, but it is learning. Every moment of practice is building new neural pathways and strengthening your abilities. Fifth, take breaks when you need them. If you feel overwhelmed, it is okay to rest for a day or two. Rest is part of the learning process. Your brain actually consolidates memories during rest periods. So taking a break is not giving up. It is allowing your brain to process what it has learned. Now I want to share a powerful concept that can transform your listening practice. This concept is called comprehensible input, and it comes from language acquisition research. Comprehensible input means language that is mostly understandable to you but contains some new elements that stretch your abilities. Remember when I said you should listen to things where you understand 70 to 80%? That is comprehensible input. The 70 to 80% that you understand gives your brain the foundation to figure out the 20 to 30% that you do not understand yet. This is how acquisition happens naturally. Your brain fills in the gaps and builds new understanding based on context. This is much more effective than studying grammar rules or memorizing word lists, because comprehensible input teaches you language in context, the way it is actually used. The key is to get massive amounts of comprehensible input. Not input that is too easy, because then you are not learning anything new. Not input that is too difficult, because then you are just confused and frustrated. But input that is at the right level, just a little bit challenging. If you expose yourself to hours and hours of comprehensible input over months and years, your English ability will grow naturally and steadily. You will acquire grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and cultural knowledge all at the same time, without consciously studying these things separately. This is how children acquire their first language. And this is how you can acquire English as a second language. It requires patience and lots of practice, but it works. Let me give you some final pieces of advice to help you succeed with your listening practice. First, use technology wisely. There are many apps and tools that can help you with listening practice. Many video platforms let you slow down the playback speed, which is helpful when something is too fast. Many podcast apps let you download episodes to listen offline. Some apps are specifically designed for language learning and include features like transcripts, vocabulary lists, and comprehension questions. Explore what is available and find tools that work for you. But remember, technology is just a tool. The real learning happens in your brain through your consistent effort. Second, balance different types of practice. Do not only do extensive listening or only intensive listening. You need both. Extensive listening builds your ability to understand the general meaning and get through longer content. Intensive listening builds your detailed understanding and helps you notice specific language features. Both are important. Similarly, balance audio-only content with video content. Audio-only is more challenging but strengthens pure listening skills. Video provides visual support and is more engaging. Use both types. Also balance fun content with challenging content. If everything is too fun and easy, you will not progress. If everything is difficult and serious, you will get tired and bored. Find a good mix that keeps you engaged and learning. Third, connect your listening practice with your other English skills. After you listen to something, Try writing a summary of what you heard. Or try speaking about the topic. Or look for reading material on the same topic. When you engage with the same content through multiple skills, your learning becomes much deeper and more integrated. Your brain builds stronger connections when information comes through multiple channels. Fourth, be patient with the process. I know I have said this before, but it is so important that it is worth repeating. Language learning takes time. There are no shortcuts or magic methods. The only way to get good at listening is to listen a lot, consistently, over a long period of time. Accept this reality, and you will feel less pressure and less frustration. You can relax into the learning process and even enjoy it. Fifth, remember that perfection is not the goal. Native speakers do not understand every single word they hear. They sometimes miss things or misunderstand things. This is normal in any language. So do not expect yourself to understand 100% of everything. Even 90% comprehension is excellent. Even 80% is good. You do not need perfection. You need functional communication ability. Focus on understanding enough to get the meaning, and do not stress about the occasional word or phrase that you miss. Sixth, notice your progress regularly. Every few weeks or months, take time to reflect on what you can understand now that you could not understand before. Listen to something you tried to listen to months ago and notice how much easier it is now. Test yourself with new material and notice that your baseline understanding is higher than it used to be. Recognizing your progress is crucial for motivation and for building confidence. It shows you that your efforts are working and encourages you to keep going. Let me tell you a story about one of my students. I will call her Maria. When Maria came to me, she had been studying English for several years. She could read fairly well, and she knew a lot of grammar and vocabulary. But she could not understand spoken English at all. She felt very frustrated because she had worked so hard, but she still could not have conversations or watch movies. I explained to her that she had focused too much on reading and writing, and not enough on listening. So we started a listening practice program together. Every day, Maria listened to English for 30 minutes. She used the 5-step method I taught you today. At first, it was very difficult for her. She wanted to give up many times. But I encouraged her to keep going. After 1 month, Maria noticed she was starting to recognize more words. After 3 months, she could follow the main idea of podcasts made for learners. After 6 months, she could watch simple TV shows with English subtitles and understand most of it. After 1 year, she could have conversations fairly comfortably, and she could watch movies without subtitles and understand probably 70 or 80%. After 2 years, she moved to an English-speaking country for work, and she had no problem communicating in her daily life. Maria's story shows you what is possible when you commit to regular listening practice. She did not have any special talent or advantage. She just practiced consistently and trusted the process. If Maria can do it, you can do it too. Now I want to address one more common question. People often ask me, should I practice listening to English every day, or is it okay to take breaks? My answer is that daily practice is ideal, especially in the beginning. Daily practice keeps your brain engaged with English and helps you build the habit. It prevents you from forgetting what you learned. It creates momentum that makes learning easier over time. However, I also understand that life is busy and complicated. Some days, you might not have time for a full practice session. That is okay. On busy days, even 5 minutes of listening is better than nothing. Even listening to one song or one short video keeps your streak going and maintains your connection with English. If you absolutely cannot practice on a particular day, do not feel guilty. Just return to your practice the next day. The most important thing is the overall pattern. If you practice 6 days out of 7, that is excellent. If you practice 25 days out of 30, that is also very good. What you want to avoid is long gaps where you do not practice for weeks at a time. Long gaps cause you to forget and lose momentum, and then you have to rebuild your skills from a lower level. So try to maintain consistency, but also be realistic and flexible with yourself. The goal is sustainable, long-term practice, not perfection. Let me also mention that your listening practice can and should be fun. Learning does not have to be boring or painful. There are so many enjoyable ways to practice listening. You can listen to comedy podcasts and laugh while learning. You can watch travel videos and learn about interesting places. You can listen to music and learn songs. You can watch cooking shows and learn new recipes while practicing English. You can listen to mystery or crime podcasts and enjoy suspenseful stories. You can watch documentaries about topics that fascinate you. The possibilities are endless. When you enjoy what you are doing, practice does not feel like work. It feels like entertainment that happens to be improving your English at the same time. This is the best situation, and this is what I encourage all my students to aim for. As we come toward the end of our time together today, I want to summarize the most important points. First, listening is one of the most important skills in English, and it supports all your other skills. Second, you need to practice listening regularly and consistently, ideally every day, even if just for a short time. Third, use the 5-step method I taught you, which includes choosing the right material, listening without help first, listening again with support, doing intensive work on small sections, and reviewing regularly over time. Fourth, make sure your listening material is at the right level. Not too easy and not too difficult. Fifth, make your practice enjoyable by choosing content that interests you. Sixth, be patient with yourself and trust the process. Learning takes time, but it does happen if you keep practicing. Seventh, vary your practice to include different types of listening, different speakers, different accents, and different formats. Eighth, connect listening with your other skills, especially speaking, by using techniques like shadowing. Ninth, learn vocabulary in context through listening rather than through memorization of lists. 10th, track your progress and celebrate your improvements. 11th, stay motivated by remembering your goals, rewarding yourself, and being part of a learning community. 12th, handle frustration and difficulty by remembering that these are normal parts of learning and signs that you are growing. And finally, remember that comprehensible input, lots and lots of it, is the key to natural language acquisition. I hope that today's video has given you a clear understanding of how to practice English listening effectively. I hope you feel motivated and equipped to start or continue your listening practice journey. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every fluent speaker once struggled to understand even simple sentences. The difference between people who succeed and people who give up is not talent. It is persistence. It is showing up day after day and putting in the practice. It is believing in yourself even when progress feels slow. It is being patient and trusting that your brain is learning even when you cannot see the results immediately. You have everything you need to succeed. You have access to unlimited English content. You have the method I taught you today. You have your own motivation and your own reasons for learning. Now you just need to take action. Start today. Right now, after you finish watching this video, go find something in English to listen to. It does not have to be long or complicated. Just find something interesting and listen to it. Then tomorrow, listen again. And the next day and the next day. Build the habit. Make it part of your daily routine. And watch as your understanding grows week by week, month by month. I believe in you. I have seen hundreds of students improve their English listening skills, and I know you can do it too. It does not matter how old you are, or where you are from, or what your native language is, or how long you have been studying English. What matters is that you are here, you are learning, and you are willing to practice. That is enough. You are enough. Your effort will pay off. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you for trusting me to guide you on this learning journey. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to Super English Talks so you can see more content like this. Share this video with anyone you know who is learning English. Let us build a community of learners who support and encourage each other. And please, leave a comment below telling me about your listening practice goals or any questions you have. I love hearing from you, and I try to respond to as many comments as I can. Remember, learning English is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy the process. Be proud of every step forward, no matter how small. And never, never give up. Your future self will thank you for the effort you are putting in today. I will be here making more videos to support you along the way. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself. You can do this. Goodbye for now, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, and happy learning, my friends.